What's going on, guys? Hey, welcome to another edition of the Ripple Effect Podcast. I am your host, Steve Harper. I'm super excited for this episode because a ripple had to happen to have this happen. Let me explain. Ann Grady, who many of you may recognize or know from the show or from my work, she's a big supporter of the Ripple, phenomenal keynote speaker, phenomenal author. She reached out to me and suggested that I connect with Jennifer Hutcheson. And she's like, I just know you two are going to get along. And I think Jennifer would benefit from knowing you and you'll benefit from knowing her. And boy, was she right. Jennifer and I set up a call and we were like this, right? Very simpatico, very connected with our approach and the direction that we are both heading to make a difference out there in the world for companies and for leaders. And Jennifer's able to take her years of experience in corporate America and actually help people really navigate how to become an integral employee and a valued resource within the organization. And she also works with leadership and leadership teams to help them become the best stewards of the great talent they are chosen to lead. I really like her approach. I like her energy and her enthusiasm. And she's just such a phenomenal person to know. I'm so grateful she agreed to be a part of this show. So that you know, this episode is going to be a little twofold, right? We're going to do it for the podcast. We're also going to do a portion of this for our community called The Pond. If you have no idea what The Pond is, go to ripplecentral.com/pond, POND. Forward slash is that little slanty thing that goes this way to the right, I guess, depending on how my hand shows on video. But the pond has been a phenomenal experiment of helping people come together online to actually support and engage one another, to actually use this as a proving ground for communicating, connecting, and building authentic relationships in a way that is a little bit challenged on Facebook and LinkedIn and the other platforms that are out there. Our goal is to incite our ripplers to want to get to know each other, to figure out how to contribute and add value, and to showcase their talents. So, I highly encourage you guys to check that out. So, a portion of this will be available on the pond. And then, those of you hearing it on the pond or seeing it on the pond, you got to come back to the podcast to catch the whole episode, but you're not going to want to miss this one. Jennifer Hutcheson is phenomenal. She's going to be great. And I can't wait for this episode to air because you guys need to meet her and, more importantly, need to figure out how to work with her because she's that good. All right. So, with no further ado, let's dive in. Guys, I'm super excited that Jennifer Hutcheson is joining us today. Jennifer, welcome to the Ripple Effect Podcast. How are you doing?
I'm doing fabulous. How are you doing today?
I am great. We just got through a long weekend and then actually got kind of like a little bonus day because yesterday was like snow and ice in Austin, which is very unusual. I don't know how it was at your house, but we barely got any, which made me kind of feel kind of bad that I told the team to just all work from home because there was not much out there.
Yeah,
But hey,
always
we'll
better
take
to
any
be
chance
safe.
we can for a snow day, right?
That's right. Always better to be safe in this town with ice.
Absolutely. People do not know how to drive when it comes to this. We have an employee for my software company that's in Denver who just has to like look at us with just scorn because like you guys are freaking out. The whole town shuts down. That's just a normal Tuesday for us in the winter.
That's
So,
right. That's right.
well, listen, I am so grateful that you agreed to be a part of the show because one, I want to make sure our Ripplers see this great work that you're doing. But most importantly, I want them to hear a little bit about your journey and sort of what led you from corporate America into doing your own thing as a consultant and a coach. And so maybe if you don't mind, maybe a good place to start would be just give us like a little brief history of you and your career path and sort of what led you to want to start your own thing.
Okay. Well, yes, I've always been fascinated, first of all, with human behavior. I find it just a marvel, and I have been researching it and listening. Now we have podcasts, so all of my
Mhm.
podcasts are around human behavior type topics. But back in the day, the way to learn more about that was to get a psychology degree, which I did from UT Austin, and then two
Welcome.
degrees, hook 'em, and 2 degrees from University of Houston in industrial and organizational psychology. So that led me to my 26-year career at Dell Technologies, where I focused on leadership development at all levels. I created programs to help people become better leaders, um, move from frontline leaders up the line, from executive, pre-executives to executives, and I just loved watching people grow into their potential. And so then, yeah, I moved on to my own space because I had been coaching uh, in, at Dell for a long time, and I thought, you know what, I have been coaching leaders, and now's the time to do it on my own.
I love it. I love it. Well, congratulations on that front, and congratulations on a very successful career at Dell. I'm sure they didn't want to see you leave, but you have bigger ripples to create out there in the world, right? So taking it outside the corporate wall, I think the world is ready to benefit from your talents. I want to ask, like, when was the obviously from an educational perspective and the direction you took, obviously you kind of were headed down a particular path, but when did you realize, wow, I'm actually really suited for this coaching and consulting kind of role, and I want to kind of take this out beyond these the corporate wall and create some bigger ripples out there in the world.
I listen to feedback, so people will tell me years later, man, that time that you told me such and such, or you suggested this, or when you asked me that question, and I don't often remember what I've asked or said. And so I just listen really well to people. And then so I listen when they also, um, when they tell me how I've impacted their lives. And so I just listened to that a bit, and I thought, okay, I'm going to go with what people are telling me, and whatever's working for them is working. So I will expand and see what I can do outside the tech industry.
I love that. I have a really good friend who's been a coach for much of her career, probably I'm going to say in the neighborhood of 30 plus years that she's been doing this. She's an industrial psychologist as well. And I remember her telling me one time, because I asked her, I'm like, how do you deal with so many different diverse clients? And, everyone comes with a unique set of needs and challenges. I mean, it could get overwhelming because I personally, as a coach, I am, one of the things that I will admit is that once I get something in my craw, I can't get rid of it, right? Which makes it sometimes challenging to move from one client to the other. But she gave me this really amazing piece of advice. Is she said, when I am with my client, it's 100% focused on them, and I am there. And part of the reason I'm sharing this is kind of what you said is like, I don't necessarily hold on to what I said or that piece of advice or necessarily that conversation. She said something very similar. She's like, if I tried to do that and I tried to balance then all of the spinning plates with my clients, I would go mad, right? So she's fully committed to the session. She takes very copious notes, and then when the session is over, she like frees herself directly from that session so that she can be like, okay, now I'm on to my next environment. But she builds in time in her calendar a day or two after that session to come in and do like a post-mortem. What did I learn? What did I discover? Her notes actually put her back into the time and space that she needed in order to sort of re-simulate in her mind what was being talked about and what was said and the advice that was given. And it's been a really great approach and strategy. And she told me something. She's like, the thing is that if there's a coach out there that says they can hold it all in their head, they can't, right? And so it's impossible. And much like that, if you're looking at coaching as being a true benefit to the leadership, you owe them 1,000% your attention, as well as your discernment of what was important and what wasn't. But then being able to come back and reference that through your notes and through sort of that re-mental exercise of going back through the session, you'll find that you'll pick up some things that will make the next session even that much more valuable. And I just thought, man, that's a really powerful piece of advice, because honestly, as a coach, I always felt guilty if I like moved on from one to another. And I love that you approach it that way, and I love that she approaches it that way, because I think it's truly the way to do it.
Absolutely. I take copious notes and then I go back, same similar. I hadn't called it a mortem, but yes, I guess that's what it is. And then I highlight, so I write all the notes as we go. And then I go back later and then I highlight in different, I have my own little process where I'll highlight different things so that I can reflect back on. certain pieces, because not everything you want to remember, but
Yeah.
certain things you want to bring forward to the next conversation. And yeah, that's what I do as well.
I love that. I love that. What was it about this approach to your career path that really felt right for you? I mean, what was it that you're like when you sort of got to that point, like, okay, well, this is sort of the direction that people really seem to resonate with me, and you obviously found some internal value for your own kind of purpose and approach. But was there one thing where you just kind of had the wake up call, like, wow, after that session, maybe I should be doing this, and maybe this is where I want to put my time and energy?
Well, not so much a wake up call, but it was advice that I received, oh, probably 20 years ago from a coach that I had who is also now a very good friend. She is retired as a coach. And she told me probably 20 years ago, build it. I call it now build it early because it applies in many different two aspects in my life. So she said, build your network before you need it. And I also built my business before I wanted or needed and decided to move into it. So two things that I did. I built my network early. So it wasn't an aha moment, it was a planned an approach. It was very organic. So, I love to connect with people. That's why we got connected because
Yeah.
our friend Ann
Yep.
Grady said,
Yep.
"Hey, y'all are doing something very similar." And I was like, "Oh, ripple effect. Okay, I need to learn about this ripple effect." And so you and I both probably, we like to connect. We like to,
Yep.
I don't know if I love the word network, but I like the word connect. I like to
Yep.
connect with people, stay in touch, learn what's important to them. I take notes on all of that as well, so I can bring it forward and check in on what was important to them the last time we talked. So I built my network very, very early and just kept building it over time. It grew organically outside the company. As people would leave, I would stay in touch with people. And so I had inside my own company and the outside the company that grew. And so I had that network that was ready for me when I went out on my own. And then I built my business 5 years before I actually left. And so I had that working in parallel. It
That's
was very
awesome.
tiny, but all of the infrastructure was there. So my aha moment was maybe a very slow aha moment where it was, aha, you're like,
Yeah.
this now we're ready. Now we're ready. You built it early and now it's ready.
Yeah. I kind of envision you being like, aha, okay, this is where I need to go. I see it. It's taken me
Let's,
a while, but I got there. I love
yeah,
it.
yeah.
What has been probably the most surprising thing since leaving sort of the confines and sort of the safety and security of a major employer like Dell and moving in the direction of being a full-time entrepreneur? Obviously, you were doing it part-time and you laid the infrastructure. And by the way, I loved your coach's advice. I think that's phenomenal, and I'm going to have to steal that. But give you guys full credit, of course. But at the end of the day, um, what's been surprising to you as you've moved headlong into being a full-time entrepreneur?
How supportive everybody is.
Ah,
Yes, so supportive. I reach out, I say, "Hey, here's what's happening to me and changing for me and what's new for me, and I would love to connect and stay as we all, some people have been staying connected, as I said, regularly. And for the folks that were less regular, I moved the kind of the circle in a little bit, and I meet with them more regularly now. But the support from everybody, hey, if they don't have anything that they need at the moment in terms of the work that I provide, because I also, in addition to being an executive and leadership coach, as I mentioned, I design leadership development programs. So if they don't happen to have anything that's burning for them, they'll say, hey, you need to talk to so and so. So all of my business so far, this first year out on my own completely, has been either from someone directly connected to me or once removed.
that's awesome. I mean,
Yeah.
that's a testament to all the work that you put into those relationships and how well thought of you are by the people that have had the luck to actually know you or work with you directly. I think that's phenomenal, and a really valuable, sort of takeaway for those coaches that are out there, that, that you've got to put in that work on the front end to do it. But then once you do, I mean, once you lay that down, and then especially if you're leaving and this has been a side hustle or maybe a part-time effort on your behalf, when you go full-time, that flywheel will catch and the gears just start happening. And next thing you know, I mean, I remember maybe it was the second call that we had, when we were preparing for this. You were like, I've got a lot of great opportunities. I'm just really lucky and blessed because you'd laid that groundwork ahead of time, which just sort of helped guarantee your success, as you moved full time.
Yes, I am very, very fortunate. And I would say that on top of all of this is a layer of curiosity. So you have to be curious about what's going on out there. What are people, um, I always say, what's keeping you up at night? And I ask people, like, so, what's important to them? What's coming for the next year? And that's really what has to drive the conversation whenever I reach out to people and see how they're doing.
That's great. What is it for someone that maybe has, obviously everybody's probably heard of executive or a leadership coach, but maybe haven't had the benefit of one. For someone who's out there is like, well, is that something that I need? Is that something that I should be looking into to help me and guide me in my career path? And maybe I'm not in a role as a leader presently, or I'm not a manager, or I'm not overseeing any staff or employees. What would you tell them about what that level of coaching can bring to them today in the role that they have, and where it could take them eventually as they do move up the career ladder, so to speak?
Mm. Well, I view growth as kind of walking on plateaus. And I just have this vision of kind of like the desert. And you're walking and you get to one level and you feel pretty confident. And you get to the next plateau and you're trying to figure out, what do I need to do differently in this next role? Well, you have to be thinking about that well before you're in that role. An executive coach or a leadership coach can help you think through what that is beforehand, so you can start getting the skills and the capabilities and the competencies well before you actually need it. Because you don't want to get promoted into a role and not have those skills. Now, you're not going to have
Right.
every skill, but you want to have been thinking about it. Again, this is kind of like build it early, plan it early. Like, I guess I'm a planner. So it's in, here's the theme for the day.
Yeah, I love it.
Plan for it. Yeah, so that's one thing, one way a leadership or executive coach can really help. And in particular, when I worked with executives, and when I do work with executives, um, or people just at that crux of getting to be executive or newly promoted, what I always have to remind them is, or I find myself reminding them is, look, what got you here? It's a popular book. What got you here won't get you there. Love that title, and it's true. I always tell them, look, you got successful getting to your current spot by doing all the things that you've done. And now you're standing on the edge of a cliff, and on the edge, I visualize the Grand Canyon. On the other side of this canyon is your next role, and you have to go down the crevasse and up to the other side. So you have to relearn and learn not all new skills, but the skills at the executive level are very different than at the, let's say, what we would call like a senior director level in some
Sure.
organizations. So, exec coach can help with that.
Could you maybe expand upon that? Just give maybe an example or two of how they are different?
Sure, you have to look up and out. So you are no longer just responsible for your own business, your own deep, knowledge of the business, but you have to look up and across to your peers. What are the handoffs in like the value chain in your organization? If you do something and you make a decision, what effect is it going to have uh, upstream and downstream? Are you going to break something on either side for some of your now new executive peers? You just have to look. You have to look more broadly.
Yeah.
You have to delegate more, because now you're responsible for asking the questions instead of knowing the answers. So you have to have people on your team going to find the answers for you. So it's a much broader perspective that you have to take as an executive, as I've learned.
I love that. The approach to coaching, I think there's a lot of people that feel like if I go and get a coach, I'm sort of admitting that I don't know everything. And it is kind of funny how it doesn't matter what level of organization you might be, there is this natural fear of sort of letting on to someone, right? That, hey, I don't have it all figured out. And
Hmm.
there's, at least in my experience, I've found that people don't recognize how that really is their Achilles heel, right? The greatest leader in the world is continually learning. I watched a press conference yesterday with Larry Ellison, and then I saw a follow on interview that was talking about how what he's done with Oracle and how much effort he's putting towards new technology and new frontiers, but he stays committed to that learning path and always getting better. And here's a guy that runs an incredibly successful organization. And yet he's admitting to the world, hey, I don't have it all figured out. I'm still showing up. I'm still learning. And it's a continual everyday process. What do you think? How do you overcome, I should say, people's reluctance to say, hey, I need some help. I need Jennifer to sort of take me by the hand and guide and direct me and help me realize this isn't so scary and I'm not like waving the white flag of defeat.
Oh, absolutely. And the words struck me when you said them, guide and direct. As a coach, as you know, right, our job is to not direct for
Right.
sure,
Yeah.
but
True.
the answers are in the leaders themselves, right? They have the gut. It's there. They've built it over time, and they're in a new position in a new place, and you just have to be there as a partner, to pull things out and have them. I'm a sounding board. I as a coach, what I do is I hear things that maybe need to be reconciled within the person. Okay, you told me this, and now I'm hearing this. Reconcile that for me, and that's where the ahas often come from. And so, um, when they, you know, I'm kind of veering from your question, but you made me think about some other things. So,
Sure.
the the notion of, yeah, I don't know it all. It is hard for a lot of leaders, right? Um, so the fact that companies are investing in coaches, I always frame it as, look, you are being invested in. It has nothing to do with what you do or don't know. We all are continuing to learn. No one will ever stop learning, throughout their lives. So this is an investment in you. And that usually erases any kind of, "What are you fixing in me? What's wrong? What do I need to, you know, fix?"
Yeah.
So when I frame it as an investment, they're like, "Oh, okay, I understand. That
Yeah.
helps." Yeah.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. That's a great approach. It actually made me think of a conversation I had last year with someone that their company had contacted me and clearly making an effort towards trying to double down and invest in, the talent that they see, but there was no level of expectation from this person's direct manager about why a coach was being called in or why there was, they were exploring this. And as you would expect, the employee was very, very guarded and very concerned. Like, wait a second, I thought things were going well. I think I've been, doing a good job. Why all of a sudden are they trying to get a coach for me? And I basically explained it. I'm like, I think that there's a great place to start is to ask that question, but from what I
Mm,
understand, in which I am not, betraying any confidence by sharing this, very similar to what you just said, they're making an investment in you. They see something special and they know that no matter who or how talented you are or what kind of experience or what level of education you have, there's always an opportunity to continue to grow and expand. That's what a coaching relationship is. And something that you mentioned, and I appreciate that distinction when you pointed it out, is guide and direct is more of the consulting side. Guide and maybe advise, but really a coach is never telling you what to do. They're just asking the deeper questions. They're getting you to look at things through maybe a little bit different lens or different angle or perspective. And in this individual's particular example, when we had that conversation, he was already like very uncomfortable and lacked a little bit of confidence, and he was worried that that was actually why they were doing it. Right? It's like, oh my god, I've been discovered. It's like, no, I don't think so. I mean, I can't tell you that, I don't know what's going on in the minds of, your superiors or, people that work with you day to day, but I can say that they see something in you. They see a spark of opportunity and they want to leverage that. They want to provide the resources and the ability for you to continue to grow your skill sets and get better. And it was like complete, like almost, Jekyll and Hyde in terms of the approach that he had in terms of the conversation, because all of a sudden it was like, oh wow, this is like, it's like they gave him, the fruit of the month award, or he gets a free gym membership or something. It's like totally different. Like, whoa, they're like really doing this. This is a value added benefit. And I think that
Amazing.
from an organization that gets it, I think the only feedback I would give them is you need to lay the groundwork as a company to say this is why we're doing it. Because for the coach to have that conversation, or even a consultant that's been brought in to really directly advise, you need to be able to establish why you're there and be able to create value in the connections that you're having in these conversations, not come in and be looked at as an immediate adversary, which I think sometimes those situations evolve that way.
Absolutely. In fact, you reminded me of one of the things that I coach people on the most, and that is especially the up and comers, the high potential mid career folks, and sometimes at all levels, the why.
Yeah.
So you just pointed out in that great example, don't forget the why.
Yes.
Leaders are always telling, here's what we need to do, go meet this deadline, here's the project, whatever, what's the status. But the why is so critical. It helps you, it speeds you up a little bit, it gets you going a little bit faster and it helps people get on board. So they could, yeah, to do that with coaches, that's a brilliant example. Explain why.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love that. Yeah, absolutely. I also think that for those that are out there listening that are thinking, well, that's great for an organization that maybe can afford it, or they've got the wherewithal to do that because they're a growing executive team. But I work for a smaller or medium sized company that never has expressed any commitment there. What do you tell those people about the possibility of having that conversation with their direct manager or their leadership team and say, hey, I know we have never done this, but here is why I think it might benefit. I know I would benefit. Here's two or three reasons why, but I also
Mhm.
think it could benefit, my existing colleagues and some of our leadership team to go through this. Do you run into those kinds of circumstances where it kind of the idea starts with one person, but then it's cascaded out into the organization because they can see the value and the benefit long term if they were to bring you in as an organizational coach?
And a lot of times that happens top down. So
Yep.
you work with the C-suite individuals and they're like, "Hey, I need this for my team." And then it grows downward. But if you're starting from the middle and someone has to, is curious about it, there's team coaching opportunities, there's group coaching, and so there's other ways. Some people are certified in like team coaching certification as well. So there are more economical ways to do it as well. Um, and then, I also do like workshops on different topics. So it hits a group of individuals and you can tackle a certain topic like influence or conflict and things like that. So there are different ways to go about it and get to these like intangibles. The most of the things that catch people and get them kind of stuck are the intangible leadership pieces and different topics there that really just kind of just get in people's way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. If someone is out there listening that's, interested, their ears are piqued about coaching, if you had to give them the pitch for what you do and how you do it, what would you tell them?
Oh, okay. So you heard my background from the beginning, right?
Yep.
So from that, maybe someone might infer that I am an analytical thinker because all that when I geek out about all the human behavior stuff. Yes, I am analytical. So for me as a coach, there's so many different types of coaches, and first of all, you have to have what we call a chemistry call. You have them all the time. Chemistry call to make sure you find the right coach for you. So for me, I always articulate that I leverage assessments and data and information to get us started. So I'm certified in a few assessments that I pull in and just because you have to learn about the person. And sometimes the individual has been so busy doing their job, they don't stop and think about what kind of leader they are. So getting information from themselves and also from their peers, like if you did peers, direct reports, customer, clients, etc., do like a 360 assessment. So I start with data. I say,
Okay.
okay, here's everything we know. And it could be I gather it from them as well. Your performance reviews, your employee opinion survey results, anything that I can learn that's already out there, and then I pull in the assessments that I think are best for this person to take. And then we start there. Like who are you? Who are you as a leader? What's working well? What do you want to polish? What do you want to enhance? Where do we start? And then we create a development plan. Now then that's very like it's pretty common, right? This is a very common approach for coaches
Sure.
to take. And so that's my take as well. I just happen to geek out about the assessments a bit.
I love it. If you were to look at what you geek out with and where you differentiate yourself from other coaches that are also in the space, what would you tell a potential client about how and why you do it a little bit differently and why they should maybe give you a little more consideration than maybe someone else they might be looking at hiring?
Oh,
Not to
that's
put you too much on
yeah.
the spot, but I think, you gotta
Yeah.
know your unique value and,
Yeah.
I like the geeking out part, but I'm curious how you might
Yeah.
position that.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I would tell people, I always tell people in a chemistry call, you have to find the person that is going to um, allow you, enable you, where you feel someone you feel comfortable being open with and vulnerable with. That's number one. So you have to be open and vulnerable with this coach and feel like you can. And you have to find a coach that will stretch you and not just be a yes person, you know? So you have to have those two things. And whether or not I'm that person, I can't decide for that person. So I can't say, I'm your right gal because, but that, so those are definitely decisions they have to make. But what distinguishes me is, um, yeah, I pull in all of the information. I was just having lunch with someone and she said very succinctly, she's like, "You ask powerful questions." And so I was like, "Okay, well that's good to know." And I'm sure that most coaches do, but that's what I was recently told, that I ask powerful questions, and like I said earlier, they just come from me being present in the conversation. And I may not remember what I've said because I'm so present. It comes out of my mouth and it's there, and that's kind of who you get when you're with me. Yeah, I make you reconcile things when I hear things that aren't making sense to me. I will pull that out. I will be blunt but nice, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, totally honest and totally kind at the same time.
I love that. Although you start off with a prescriptive method, the thing that I want our audience to really resonate and pay attention to is the fact that you are fully present. That you're not coming in with preconceived notions. You're not trying to drive an agenda. And what I see, at least in the competitive space, with a lot of coaches, maybe they went and did their coaching certification through one of these degree in a box kind of approaches or methodologies or models. The best coaches I feel, and maybe that's because I kind of look at myself as the same approach, is the ones that aren't trying to fit you into a process or through a prescriptive method, but allow that relationship to develop organically. Always come prepared with great questions. Always come prepared to learn just a little bit more. Test and validate a few of the things that we've discussed previously, but really a good coaching call or meeting comes down to that genuineness in the conversation, because a lot of times it's the little things that you pick up if you're fully present as a coach that are actually some of the biggest hangups or some of the biggest areas of opportunity for growth. And if I'm trying to fit you into, hey, on this call I need to get through these 3 points, I need to get through this, I need to move you from one layer of the pyramid to the
Mm,
next layer. You and I have probably both seen that, and just how uncomfortable and painful that can be. Be like, hey, I really feel like as the client, I need to go in a little deeper here. I'm sorry, we got to move on to the next step. I mean,
yeah.
we only have an
Right.
hour, right?
Right.
So those things, there's just some incongruency. I'm not trying to criticize those that are out there, but to your point, you have to find somebody that really aligns with who you are, and that chemistry doesn't happen immediately. It takes a little bit of time. It
Hmm.
creates, you have to create those avenues of opportunity for you to allow that thing to evolve naturally. If you're very gifted, and I can tell the audience from speaking with you a couple of times, I see how people can go from 1 to 100 with you so quickly because you're easy to talk, you're friendly, and you're 1000% focused on what the topic is at hand. It really does come across even in a 2D world. We haven't met face to face yet, but even on Zoom or on a call like this, the warmth and the friendliness, but the natural curiosity, which makes you a phenomenal coach, by the way, really shines through. And if you're trying to align with a predictive process or a model, that doesn't always come across, right?
Oh no, we're dealing with people here. You can't do that. Humans, yeah, yeah. There's no fitting it into a certain process. You reminded me when you asked that question though, you kind of made me think back to our comment earlier. So what makes me unique? I just realized, when you were talking about, direct, guide, et cetera, and we were debating, and you're right. The consultant piece, what is so surprising to a lot of coaches when they get started is how much they have to wear at least two hats. I say sometimes three. There are three hats. There's coach, there's consultant, and there's mentor. And we're usually at some point all of those things. And when become a coach, some people are like, okay, I'm just a coach. No, it was a surprise to a lot of people. No, you're not. So sometimes I do have to put, because I do have that org development background from my degree and my all of my way past. I do have to put on that consultant hat. So I literally, as I'm coaching, I'm thinking, okay, I'm taking off the coach hat now. I'm putting on the consultant hat. Okay, and sometimes you do have to direct and guide, and then oh, now I'm putting on the mentor hat because I've done this before, and whatever it is we're talking about, and here's my experience, and then I'll put the coach hat back on. So it is not as simple as when you get coach certified. It was for me. It was not as simple as when I was walking in that door, as a coach. Like, oh, it's a little different. I have to wear three hats. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
surprise.
Well, and that makes you effective at what you do, right? Because it really at that role above all of that, you are technically their advisor, their go-to person. And sometimes you have to wear the coach hat, sometimes you have to wear the consultant hat. And like you said, I love how you've brought that full circle with the mentor hat because inevitably a good coach creates a relationship that goes well beyond the business transaction of what's occurring, right? There is a legitimate care and concern for the clients. I've seen other coaches where it's purely transactional, and quite honestly, it feels transactional, and the clients generally don't stay there because they're either there looking for the answers to the test or they're looking for quick solutions. And you may get them, but there's not a lot of substance and foundation behind why you're maybe doing or what you're why you're doing some of the things that you're being told to do or executing. And then beyond that, it's like, well, there's nothing really good to come back to. We solved that problem, or maybe I didn't solve it, and now I'm frustrated and don't feel like I can really relay that back because I don't have that kind of rapport with the
Right.
coach. I didn't follow the model. I must have failed. I must have done something wrong. And I just am. I always tell my clients, and I love your approach. I'm gonna the chemistry call. I think is. Of all the coaches I've ever interviewed, nobody's ever said that. I love that.
Ah,
But also like just your approach, right? How's the data shape up? How does that work in terms of informing our next steps? But at the end of the day, just being 1000% invested in the conversation that we're going to have, whether that's an hour a month or a couple hours a month, being fully there and then being able to kind of come back and kind of pull those puzzle pieces together and start to kind of align what needs to happen in the next session or feedback that might need to be expressed to the client post, I think is really, really phenomenal. And I can see why clients who might be otherwise resistant to this quickly and efficiently ease into your process because you don't make it feel like it's work or you don't make it feel like it's scary. And that's where I think at least the feedback I've gotten from people who have considered a coach but haven't pulled the trigger. Nobody wants to look dumb. Nobody wants to look like they don't know what they're doing. And there's also this back of the head. What are my colleagues going to think? What are my people that
hmm
I'm following or that are following or I'm leading? What are they going to think if I pick up a coach? And it's almost like a ding to their ego in some respects.
hmm That's why some of the clients that I work with, the companies, they're trying to shift that perception, and they're doing a really good job. So it's all, like we said, we have to explain the why.
Yep.
That why are we investing in this new coaching network or expanded coaching network? And if they do that job well, then it all falls into place because the peers are hearing, oh, this is the fruit of the month or whatever you call that. Would crack
Yeah.
me up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Fruit of the month
Employee benefit.
gift. Congratulations.
Yeah.
That's why I love talking to you. You're very funny. Oh,
My wife does not think so, but I appreciate that. Thank you.
sure.
I now have it on video evidence, so I
You
can show
do.
it to her.
You
And it is,
do. That's right. Oh,
yeah, well, I do see, and I've seen that before. I mean, maybe more so pre-COVID, where companies were really trying to figure out all these different strategies to show, hey, you're a valued employee. we're going to do these programs. We're going to do, fruit of the month, the gym membership, or hey, we brought you in a coach, but they didn't lay the groundwork to explain it.
Right.
But I do think that I think when companies actually consider putting their money where their mouth is to make their people better, you do have to say the why, and you do have to share the story as to why that is. Because I think, especially in today's workplace, we're all kind of scared, right? We're always worried about being somehow isolated or identified as potential problem, or maybe ending up on the list that could be on the chopping block. And is this the last thing that they're trying before they let me go, kind of thing. So there's all these stories we tell ourselves that the ego is not our friend in most cases, and that becomes a problem. So I think that when organizations do it, when you can say, look, we can all get better. And I know it's an overused analogy in the coaching world, but I mean, nobody just drafted Michael Jordan and said, "Hey, you know how to shoot, you know how to move, you know how to dribble, you've got the complete package. Just show up on game days, right?" You
Mhm.
just that's an overused example, but it's so valid and true when it comes to coaching. The work never is done. There's always something next that you can tackle if you're committed to your career or becoming a more effective leader, a more effective communicator, a better person in general. Coaching, just if you find the right coach and there's that chemistry, then I think you find someone that can really be there for the long haul, and then that relationship just becomes so powerful to you because they're your go-to. They're the person in the corner that's going to encourage you when things are going, maybe not the way you want them. They're going to be there to pick you up when you've made some missteps, and they're going to be there to cheer you on and for the success, and not because, oh, look, I did your coaching program, but because, look, they have a genuine invested interest in who you are as an individual first, and then what you do with your career second.
Absolutely. It's interesting though. I also know some leaders because you were talking about for the long haul, but I know some leaders that purposefully choose coaches for different seasons of their career.
Yeah.
And they
Oh,
have
yeah.
made, yeah, they're like, okay, I'm a high potential mid-career and I had this coach, and now I have this, now I need this next kind of layer. And so some people have moved through about four coaches for very specific reasons. And it's not that the original coach has stopped being useful. It's just that they have gotten them to the next step and the next level. And maybe the things that need to be polished, there's another coach that has an expertise in that area. And so they move to that space with that coach. So that's another way that I've seen it work as well.
I love that. I love that. I could talk to you all day about coaching because I think and I said this in our introduction. I feel like we're so very simpatico. Anne definitely knew what she was doing when she put us together, and somehow, some way, you and I are going to find some work to do together. And I'm so grateful for your time here on the podcast. But we're also going to showcase this in the pond, the community we've created for our Ripplers, because I feel like a lot of the folks in there, we've got a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of business leaders. They need to know the work that you do, and the value you bring to the table. And so I'm really, really excited for them to also get some exposure to this great episode. I'm going to shift here to some Ripple connection questions that are kind of fun to ask and fun to answer, hopefully. That'll give our audience just a little bit more insight as to who you are. But if you weren't doing coaching and you left Dell and you're like, okay, the world is my oyster, I can do anything, but coaching's off the table, what would you be doing? Coaching or consulting
Mhm.
is off the table.
Okay, consulting's off the table too, the
Yeah,
leadership
yeah, yeah.
design. Okay.
I had to. I better slide that in right there at
You
the end just
better,
to make
because
sure. Yeah,
I will just jump on that immediately and talk all about leadership development because have a passion about that. Okay, so that's off the table. That's so much, that work is so much fun though. Okay. I would be working with the elderly. I have a real
really.
passion for the elderly. I always have. It was my very first job. At 16, I was a server at like an assisted living place,
Yep.
and loved interacting with people. Have always glommed onto the elders in my family and learned from them. And yeah, people say when you start talking about it, I'm trying to keep my face from doing it, but I just always just go. "Ah." So
Yeah.
I would be working with the elderly, and that is something that I've volunteered in the past at some Alzheimer's places like respite care,
Yep.
and so I'm trying to pick that back up on the volunteer space. But if I had an ending time, I would just do that all the time. If I could talk to
Ah.
older people 8 hours a day, every day, I would be in heaven. That'd be lovely.
Ah.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that. That's a great, great answer. One of the best I've gotten for sure. If um, if there was a word to describe you, what would that word be?
Oh, one word.
Data driven can be one word because it's hyphenated,
Oh,
but now you can't use it because that was mine. I gave it to you.
gosh, I'm gonna have to go with the first word that stuck in my head, patient.
Oh, all right. Expand upon that a little bit.
Patience just comes up in every aspect of my life, and I'm sure a lot of people's lives or lack thereof, right? So, yeah, the more patience you have, the more time you get to sit with something, the more time you get to observe something, the more time you get to let a situation resolve itself or see what's really going to happen. Like patience is a
Yeah.
virtue. Patience really just can pay off. Yeah,
I love that word. I love that. And I think I already know the answer to this question because I think you revealed it without me asking, but what's your superpower?
curiosity.
Yeah. What is it about curiosity that really drives it for you?
You learn so much more by being curious about others than you ever could have by staying in your own head. I mean, I already know what's in here. I
Yeah.
don't know what's out there. Yeah, curiosity is just it's just powerful. It really is. It's amazing. Yeah, you
Yeah.
learn so much and it takes you in all different directions. Yeah.
I love that. What was the greatest thing to happen to you last year?
Oh gosh. Yeah, starting not starting because I had already started my business. Starting in full time in my
Yep.
business was incredible. I learned so much. And that yeah, that's definitely the number one thing. This number two thing, because I have to slip another thing in there, is I gave myself a gift of a trip after 26 years
Ooh.
in the industry. I was like, I am giving myself a retirement gift, and I went on a, hiking trip with a group. And it's a fabulous company that does these trips. And so I did that, and I went to Maine. I'd never been to Maine before.
Oh, that's awesome.
It was
Sorry, are you a
amazing.
big hiker? Is that something you like to do?
I love to hike. Yeah, yeah. I don't do it enough, but it was fabulous. I had a really good time. So.
Okay, so here's what we're going to commit to do. We are going to put together an event for our Ripplers in Austin, and we'll go on a hike, and we're going to have you be our guide.
Oh my goodness. I will sign up for going to that and I will help you figure out who's the best person to be that guide. I don't want to get us lost.
Yeah. So everybody that signs up is going to have to go through an evaluation so she can evaluate the data, right?
There, that's right. That's right. I'll
I
create
love
an
that. But
assessment.
that would be a fun thing. I've been threatening. We did this years ago, but we did this thing called the Walkabout Ripple, and we got together and everybody paired off. We had a couple of Ripple connection questions just as our guide, and then every few minutes we would swap partners. But we would, we'd all end up at the same destination. But by the time from the time we left to the time we arrived and then got back to our original our cars where we started, it was like people that didn't know each other or looked at each other as complete strangers now had friends and they had done this activity and they had enjoyed it. They got to learn some things about people that they know before. They got to express some things that they never expected to share about themselves, and it was just a really fun way to do it. Much probably like your trip, right? You go to that, it's facilitated in a way that makes it super comfortable and accommodating for all those that are there. You're all, focused on one goal, but by the end, you become pretty close with those folks because the shared experience becomes a really great opportunity to bond.
Absolutely. I love that
Yeah.
example. I wish I would have been at your event.
Yeah, we'll
Yeah.
do another one. We also did a walkabout where we walked in East Austin before much of it got changed. Now it's like all gentrified, but there was some really cool, very awesome, very unique architecture. And a good friend of mine, Maria Gatling, took us on a phone tour. It was a phone photographic walkabout, and we went. We all the goal was, hey, whatever you find interesting in your eye, put that
Oh,
together. And then we brought all those pictures together to kind of showcase what everybody was looking at. And it was really powerful. So we need to bring those back. So,
yes.
we'll have to do one in your honor, and especially in honor of this episode. So there we go.
Oh,
We'll have to do it when it warms up, spring, which will probably be tomorrow
yeah, that's
in
right.
Texas. We
Saturday.
had ice
Yeah.
yesterday. It'll be 80 degrees tomorrow. Probably do it tomorrow. But
I
anyway,
love that plan. I love
yeah.
that.
So we are
Yeah,
definitely you got to hold me accountable. So and hold me accountable to do it. We'll make it happen.
will do.
What is the best thing that you could hear a former colleague from Dell say about you and the work that you guys did together?
That I impacted their life positively. Yeah, that I helped them get to wherever they were trying to get. Yeah,
Ah,
that is
love it.
so rewarding to hear when people do reach out. And so I'm very blessed to have impacted lives and to interact with people,
I
great
love that.
people. Yeah.
Yeah. That's really I'm no doubt they're saying that about you without question. What's the book that changed your life?
Ooh, I'm looking at my bookshelf. Um, changed my life. Ooh, man. See, I asked you for questions beforehand. You
There
didn't
was a
give me
reason
just
I
one.
didn't give them to you, right?
That's right.
For our audience, you have to understand we both come in very prepared for these things, and I think I made Jennifer very uneasy when I'm like, "Nah, don't worry about it. I got questions," and she's like, "I don't know that I trust you with these questions."
The other hard part is being interviewed as a coach because I always ask questions.
Yeah,
I don't get asked questions. I'm like, this is not
yeah. This
the
seems so
right,
awkward.
this is not the right, yeah, order
Yeah,
here.
the dynamic's different than you're used to. I love it.
Gosh,
How about this? Maybe not changed your life.
yeah,
Let me rephrase a book
yeah,
that really made an impact on you at some
yeah.
point.
Well, so many. I am going to say I'm looking at it right here. It was right on the top of my bookshelf here. Ooh, so was this one. Okay. You asked for one thing, I always answer with two.
Yeah, I love that.
Okay. I'm gonna go with Radical Candor by Kim
Ooh,
Scott. Yeah.
that's
I
a
mentioned
great book.
earlier another favorite coach of mine. He always says, "Be totally honest and totally kind at the same time," and he's been saying that for decades.
Yeah,
And Kim Scott, when she came out with her book, it basically says the same thing. She says it slightly different words, but yeah, combine the two, and that's how you can communicate well with others and get the decisions you need made, the interactions, go better. Everything kind of falls into place when you are totally honest and totally kind at the same time.
I love that. Well, you pulled a second book off the shelf. What's
I
that one?
did. Habits by James Clear.
That's so great. I mean that book. I mean it's been a game changer for a lot of people, for myself included. I'd offer it and suggest it to all my clients as well. It's just very 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 valuable
Yes. Yes.
and a
Really
really
makes you
good
think
way
through.
to evaluate what habits do I have that aren't supporting me right now. Right, things that I've just allowed to continue to happen over and over again that I need to change and alter.
That's right. And it can be so simple. You can just put things in your way or take them out of your way. That's just one piece of atomic habits that always sticks with me. Like, move things out of your way if you don't want. You can make this easier for yourself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
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 That's a novel concept right there. Like, wait,
Right.
what? I mean, I can make it easier on myself. It's that
Don't
simple.
don't have the sugar in the house.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
okay. Then now it's
There
easier
you
to make
go.
that habit stick. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. I- who played an integral role in helping you become the awesome person that you are today?
My mom. Yeah, she's an amazing person. She is a great mom, and she always encouraged me, and I felt like I could do anything. Yeah,
Oh, that's great.
yeah.
I love that. I love that. All right. Final two questions. When you hear the phrase the ripple effect, what comes to mind for you? What does that mean to you?
It means so many people being able to touch each other in a very efficient way, and
Mm,
it just it's expansive. Yeah.
what a great answer. I love that. And what ripple can I look to create for you in the upcoming year?
Oh, thank you for asking. Well, yeah, I just would love to continue to get to know, because I've been on your website and I've been paying attention, listening to your podcasts, and so I've learned a ton. And I will continue to do that. For me, I guess, if anyone wants to know more about me or learn more about my coaching style or my leadership development programs, I am happy to help. I have such a passion for those two pieces of work that is my goal is to just help leaders grow in many different ways. So, yeah,
I
thank you for
love that.
asking.
Well, we will definitely do our part to help promote that. And our audience, I know, will want to learn more about your work. So, could you share what's the best way to, engage with you if you've got a what? I know you've got a website, and if you're on social, if any of those handles you want to share, we want
Yeah,
to
I'm
make
on.
sure we put those in the
Yeah.
show notes. But if you want to share those now, that'd be fine.
Thank you. Yeah, best way to contact me. I am in LinkedIn. So, and my last name is a tricky one. So, if this video, for people who are just listening, it's Hutcheson. I spell that every day of my life because it's
Good
very
thing.
uncommon. Yes,
Yep.
every day. And then, so my website is my name, jenniferhutcheson.com. So,
Awesome. I mean, to secure that domain, I think is pretty awesome. I love that. When I saw it, and you've got a beautiful website and
thank you.
very helpful in terms of someone being able to see, hey, is this someone that I need to, maybe engage and get to know a little bit better and see if I can, work together. Yeah, I think you do a great job, like communicating through the website for sure. Any social handles that you're on other than LinkedIn that you care to share, or
No,
just the
I
website?
am.
Okay.
Then I show my age. Yes, not so, not so social,
She's
but
12. It's fine.
probably.
She's on some cool new thing that she doesn't want to share with us, right?
Yeah, that's it. I think it might be on the other side. Yeah, no, I probably need that. That needs to be one of the goals for this year. Thank you for pointing that out. Yeah.
Well, it wasn't intentional. I wasn't trying to
No,
call you
hey.
out or anything, but
No,
I
that's
love that.
fabulous. I always love to, yeah, put more things on my moving forward list.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That
Hmm.
list probably, as an entrepreneur, just never gets shorter. It just
It
keeps
doesn't.
getting bigger, right?
Yeah.
Well, Jennifer, thank you so much. I want to thank our audience for being a part of this interview. Obviously, you see what I see in Jennifer, why you want to connect and engage with her. We are super excited to get this episode out to you guys. Please jump on Jennifer's website and learn about her services, what she offers, because I think you will definitely benefit. And we'll be back with another episode of the Ripple Effect podcast very soon. But until then, Jennifer, as always, ripple on.
Thank you, Steve.